The Polaris SlingShot is a vehicle unlike any other. It inspires, it excites, it turns heads. We wanted to take that vehicle and make it even more outstanding by completing it with a roll cage top. We realized early on that the greatest challenge of this project was going to be the number of competing factors that we'd have to address. And so we assembled a team of both engineers and designers that, with a combined skill set, would be able to address all of those factors. Braden, our self-sacrificing team lead. Nathan, who's dedicated himself to structural analysis and making sure that the cage is going to be strong. Zach's been super helpful as an aesthetically talented engineer to combine both form and function. Lane brings a lot of manufacturing experience and perspective to the table, which has made it so that the final product is something that can be made. Kevin, as our project manager, has helped us stay on task and on track. And then myself as the industrial designer, I've been focused on making sure this roll cage looks and feels amazing for the final customer. The most beautiful cars in the world are those that have really strong visual lines running front to back. And so we decided to take the strongest line of the SlingShot, which from the side profile is the one that swoops up and over the hood and then upward in front of the driver, and continue that with the A-pillar. That way, it really makes it a beautiful side. A user described the SlingShot as a vehicle that expresses aggressive anarchy. And that really inspired me, so I took that phrase and looked for things that fit it, which led me to motorcycles and fighter jets. The thing that those two have in common is that when a motorcyclist hunches over, it forms the same shape as a fighter jet's cockpit. So this very streamlined profile. So I applied that profile to our roll cage and combined that with a front view that was inspired by exotic sports cars, whose A-pillars taper inward very dramatically. The result of that combination was starting to look very compelling. For further inspiration, I started looking to nature, where most creatures' tails point down and back, but the scorpion's points up and forward almost defiantly. And that's how I would imagine the SlingShots would if it were an animal. So that led me to add this brow jutting forward off the front of the roll cage, which gives it this very aggressive feel, but also adds more shade. We created a PVC prototype of one of our early designs and then had people get in and out of it. And doing so taught us that as people were getting in, they leaned forward, and that puts their head very close to the front points of the cage. So knowing that, we moved it forward and up while still preserving the original aesthetic. The PVC roll cage also taught us that headspace was going to be an issue. And so we decided to make the difficult decision to angle those back pillars outward, which creates more space around the head and better safety in the case of an impact. As the deadline for submitting plans to get a final prototype made grew closer and closer, more and more problems seemed to surface, even as we were solving them. As we solved one problem, it would create another one. For example, as we brought the tail of the cage farther back for aesthetic purposes, it made it so that one of the bars was now passing directly through the existing vehicle. So we had to go back to the drawing board and fix that before moving forward. And so it seemed like it would never end, but it finally did. Some tubes were bent in Wyoming, then shipped to Minnesota for being welded. And before we knew it, this cross-country prototype was sitting on our front porch in Utah.